Buboes. Phlegm, blood and guts. Boils, bogies, rot and pus. Blisters, fevers, weeping sores. From your wounds, the fester pours. Here come the Knights of Nurgle, and they'll try their hand against one of the best Wood Elves players in the world in ODM Zyphos today. Azrai and Nurgle, gonna be a really interesting matchup, I think. There's a lot of natural counters and mind games that go down now when these two factions meet. And it's also a matchup where Zotes might thrive, which is a situation we'll explore more deeply in another replay. For this one, I realized right off the bat that Festus would pretty much be useless here. He serves no purpose against hardcore kiting in land battles, so I went for another meme lord that is very far from a meta pick, but has a real chance to do some work here if the right units are brought on the other side, and of course that's sometimes a big if. The Daemon Prince of Nurgle. Now normally Herald on a Rotfly is the go-to against Wood Elves almost every single time, but like I said, memeing a bit and also keeping an eye out for a Wild Durthu or Angry Treeman, which I think have the potential to see some play against an armored melee rush. Stream of Corruption Bounce Spell, Spirit Leech, and Fleshy Abundance. He's a big target for missile fire, which is not great, but my army would be entirely incapable of killing trees without him, so figured he might be worth a shot, and he can turn a cav fight or tear out chaff quite efficiently. What is going to be a common pick here are the Chaos Knights of Nurgle, whose Sword and Board Undivided variant were already a staple of the Warriors of Chaos against Wood Elves for their armor and missile block chance. When you add more HP, poison, and general survivability, it's clear why they might be difficult to deal with. They are really slow though, at only 65 speed. Love the design, just a plodding, poisonous wall of steel that runs down their enemies with impunity. We'll see how they do in this one. 3 or 4 Furies should hopefully make it difficult for archers to stay online. A lot of air presence here, kind of to be expected. Forsaken and Marauders to add some width and bodies, and Poison Warhounds out on the flank to put additional pressure on the rear. So Nurgle has plenty of tools to make life difficult for the Azrai, but they also have some fun tricks up their sleeve as well. Zyphos is across the valley on Barrier Idols, and he is a Glade Lord with Arrow of Kurnus and Prey of Anathrema, the Savage Huntress. Any unit that has a cleared charge and threatens the archers can be locked down for 16 full seconds while the focus fire comes in and scours them from the field, which is made all the easier when you have access to Starfire Shafts, which are perfect for countering healing and chunking through the heavy armor of Nurgle. Dryads, Eternal Guard, Glade Riders, Branch Wraith with Melkoth for slows, and Earthblood for heals. Supported by Light Cav and a unit of Wildwood Rangers, their glaives should give this army some additional punch versus armor. And in the rear, tons of Glade Guard, most of them Starfire Shafts, a few of them with Hagbane Tips, stack up Poison Slows with Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, and 2 Wild Riders, 1 on each flank. So, kind of expected here, spreading the field, very wide army, lots of chaff, roadblocks to slow the advance and protect the archers, and only one truly elite unit here, the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, which perform decently versus Chaos Knights and amazing versus demons. So, as the battle gets underway, Glade Lord psychokinetically tossing arrows of Kurnus towards the Chaos Knights all the way across the beaten zone. I remember a time when that magic missile was really good. Feels like it hasn't been super impactful for many years now, but 2 dead Chaos Knights isn't the worst way to get things kicked off, and her skirmishing will soon relieve Forsaken of their heads. Now you might be wondering why I would just allow the Glade Lord to move up in the way that she has and not try to chase her off with Furies or with my Daemon Prince. I'm giving her a wide berth for one specific reason. That's because she can net me in place, and if my Daemon Prince takes 4 or 5 Starfire volleys to the face, he's probably not going to have a very good time. Those are a legit hard counter to him because he has physical resistance, which will be bypassed, and he relies on healing, so if a Fleshy Abundance went his way, the flaming attacks of those arrows would nullify a good portion of an expensive spell. The safest play by far is to give her the respect she deserves, toss a few Soul Suckers her way, and otherwise ignore her for the moment, much to the chagrin of the poor Marauders and other infantry, about to be on the business end of her arrow points. Little bit of poking, prodding, and repositioning thus far. One thing I like to do versus range-heavy factions is kind of feign a retreat initially, then when they're moving forward, turn on the jets and bum rush, because that can delay their first volley sometimes, especially if Fire at Will has been turned off for their archers. Just saw Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma hit the Marauders in the front ranks. I'm not expecting them to do a whole lot. I think they'll do okay-ishly against Dryads and Eternal Guard, but really this is about the Forsaken and the Chaos Knights for the actual killing power, and of course, that Daemon Prince, if he doesn't get shot to hell, which is probably going to be one of Zyphos' top priorities, should he choose to go after the Lord. A net and focus fire from the Starfire Shafts would kill him extremely quickly. have to be careful of that. Spirit Leech on the Wild Hunters of Kurnist to zone them out for a little bit. If we keep doing that over time, that'll drain quite a few models from their unit pool, and that's a dangerous unit, especially for my Chaos Knights, so wouldn't be a bad idea. Going right up the center now, and they should be able to clear the Marauders out with a single charge. And this is where the mind games come in, especially if you're the Azrai, because everything you're trying to do here is revolving around that prey of Anathrema. And if you can force those Chaos Knights, or hell, even the Furies, to respond to you in the center, to try and cover for their infantry, then that's a perfect opportunity to drop the net, pin a unit in place for 16 full seconds, and then explode it with 4 or 5 volleys from Starfire Shafts. Didn't happen there, but probably what Xiphos is looking to do, unless he's waiting to use that in a purely defensive nature. And that is somehow players like to. If anything breaks through the battle lines and heads toward the archers, that is when the prey of Anathrema will drop. For now, a Daemon Prince of Nurgle getting cute and cuddly with the Eternal Guard in the middle, looking to tear route them as quickly as possible and open up some avenues of attack for the Forsaken and Chaos Knights. We're moving into the Wildwood Rangers right now. It's a great engagement. They're backed up by Forsaken. They can get through the low armor. I think it's only 30 for Wildwood Rangers, and those glaives are dangerous, especially if they're fighting in the woods. I'm not sure if they're getting their terrain bonuses where they're standing right now, but it looks like the Chaos Knights are doing just fine. Marauders, of course, torn apart while the Wild Hunter of Kurnist charge. Chaos Knights backing up the other units out on the left flank for Nurgle, and there are some avenues of attack in the middle to get into those Starfire Shafts. Fury's going over the top, and this could open things up for the Plague God quite quickly. Now, right here, Chaos Knights are in the perfect spot to tie down the Wild Hunters of Kurnist and deal some good damage back in the grind, which is not what the Wood Elves want this battle to be. They need to strike hard and fast and not get caught out in those long, drawn-out conflicts. Get another look at the Chaos Knight charge into the Wildwood Rangers, and it does look like where they're positioned right there, they will get the benefit of their additional bonus first large and other passive abilities for when they're fighting in the trees. Stream of Corruption hitting the Azrai right flank, dealing some decent damage. Can't overcast that, though. For the Daemon Prince of Nurgle, it's only a bound spell. It's not part of his normal spell kit. He is a mix of Lore of Death and Lore of Nurgle, landing in the rear with the force of a hurricane and forcing these Starfire Shafts backwards and, at least for now, silencing them, preventing them from shooting into some of these high-value armored targets, while the Chaos Knights get a gorgeous hammer and anvil into the Dryads alongside some Furies, and it looks like this initial wave of Azrai defenders not gonna hold out too well, except where only Marauders are fighting. Those fights will probably be pretty grindy and long, but Nurgle's getting a lot of units into the backfield. Wood Elves are responding well, though. They've already crumbled out 2 full units of Furies that really didn't do a whole lot. Some point-blank volleys from the Starfire Shafts clear them out so quickly. Dryads are gone, though. That's a free unit of flying demons and Chaos Knights that could potentially push deep into the heart of this Azrai formation, while the Poison Warhounds pull the Wild Riders away from the main line. Let's see if they take that bait. So they have an avenue of attack right up the center, could shut down 2 or 3 full units of archers right here, and Chaos Knights on the other side holding well while the Demon Prince comes in from behind. Stream of Corruption, possible tear route imminent. Big Chungus about to spoil the Knife Ear's fun, and this is where things get really interesting and weird and a lot to learn here. So, Fury's got a clean charge into the Glade Guard, but they're dealing very little damage. They are poisoned, but doing surprisingly bad against a very squishy target, and I absolutely should have committed my cav here. Into the archers, tie them down, ignore the Wild Riders, who are going to hurt with a flank or rear charge, but they're not going to utterly eviscerate my Chaos Knights. They don't have enough AP for that. Instead, I'm going to see the Wild Riders coming and retreat, because I want to avoid a situation where they get tied up and shot to pieces at point-blank range. Give my Warhounds and Demon Prince more space to charge into the rear at the same time, and there is an avenue of attack for them, but it was definitely the wrong call, because the missile block chance disappears, they turn their back, their shields aren't facing the right way, they're hit by Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma and Poison Stacks, so they're barely moving now, can't really escape, and what could have potentially led to a couple full arch units being killed off, or at least routed, not going to happen, and I may have just lost my chance. The bigger issue is the Wood Elves haven't broken on their right flank yet, even with the help from the Demon Prince, so I wasn't able to link up with both Chaos Knights in the backfield simultaneously, which probably would have been my win condition. Now the Warhounds need to run because Wild Riders are chasing after them. Earthblood to heal up the Glade Guard, who are now going to try to focus fire down my Demon Prince, and even though I do have some free Chaos Knights now, and I have another opportunity to dive into the rear, it's probably going to be too little too late, even with a fleshy abundance to keep those Chaos Knights in the fight, because they have that special tool, Prey of Anathrema. Not even going to get the full charge bonus off, pretty much stop dead in their tracks, point blank volleys into their front, and even though they do have that missile block chance and heavy armor, with all this AP coming in and all this magic damage hitting from all kinds of different avenues, it's just bad news bears. And Nurgle did what they could, might have been able to dictate the pace of the engagement if both my Chaos Knights had linked up in the backfield and done this initially, rather than retreating from those Wild Riders. But I'm not sure that I could have killed off 3 or 4 full units. The Chaos Knights of Nurgle are not known for their high DPS, even though they have decent charge. I'm not sure I would have been able to kill them in time while the Wild Riders were chunking in from behind and I was still getting shot and netted and what have you. I think it might have still been too much. I will say, the Daemon Prince, this game, not the correct call. Obviously, I knew it was a kind of a meme pick going in anyway, but I did want to try it out and see if it would potentially save me against a Durthu or Tree Man if that showed up. It did not. And even though I don't think he's absolutely horrendous, he is overly expensive, not really what you need against Wood Elves. I knew that a Rotfly and a Herald would be better in 95% of circumstances, but I've also done that in a bunch of replays before, so I didn't really want to showcase that in this replay. Anyway, didn't work out. Gonna get some decent attacks in. He did have some nice support for my Chaos Knights and some Streams of Corruption and some Terror, which the Herald does lack, of course. But maybe even the bigger issue with the pick is that it just prevents you from going even wider. And an additional infantry unit, an additional cav unit, or Fury, or what have you, could have potentially been the difference maker. Because a lot of times it only takes that one extra flanker to prevent multiple archers from firing, to silence them for a little bit, to get that flank charge in, and cause a mass rout on one side, and then things really open up and things snowball from there. So, yeah, the cheaper the Lord against Wood Elves, usually the better. But we were talking after this one, and Zyphos was talking about potentially using Zotes as a counter to enemy flankers and as a counter to Chaos Knights. And that's something I really want to explore. Maybe not in the Nurgle matchup, because I'm not sure I'm going to do a Wood Elf versus Nurgle replay again anytime soon. But Zotes against Chaos in general, I think, definitely have some uses against a lot of these factions, especially against the Mono Gods because of their demons and their reliance on physical resistance. I think that could be really interesting. Zyphos played this really well, did a great job with his nets and his positioning, spreading really wide and making it difficult for me to shut down all his archers, and the focus fire coming in just proved to be too much for my rush army in this one. So really well played, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Indy Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.